Now, because the intention of God is not as much that they be manifestations of God. The intention of God is that God is revealed. The intention is according to the creation plan. The manifestations tied to dominion is not the primary purpose. That's a side effect. He says, let us make man in our image. Then, according to our likeness, they will express dominion. So if you think of that, what God is trying to do is not say, oh, we're now the most powerful. No. He's trying to say, meet me. Jesus said, if you meet me, you've met my Father. If you see me, you've seen my Father. The intention is that we return to our place. Now, the result of returning to how we are as humans is to now begin to meet supernatural human beings. When you become supernatural, nobody tells you. Means you have gone a stage above all the things that you defined as your humanity that was natural to you. You've entered a supernatural state. In effect, that's why you have comics and movies that show you men like you and I, but they're now called superheroes. They rose. The only thing make them different from you is that they now acquired abilities that are beyond the natural. So the first intention is this, is that you begin to now know that your thinking, how you see things, how you understand things is becoming more like your Father who is in heaven. The dominion is natural. So if he actually is a Spider-Man, function as a Spider-Man is dead easy. So if we understand that for each Kenyan, it's the transformation in your nature. Remember, the real problem you have that has created all your limitations as a human being is in your mind. Your thought process, your thought patterns, your worldview. Once it doesn't contain exactly how God designed you to be, you live lower than who you are. So when he's telling Moses the story, he's trying to tell Moses, explain to them what the problem is. So let me tell you about Adam and tell you about Eve and where the problem came from. They decided to come up of their own with a concept contrary to mine, thinking that it will make them wiser and stronger. No, it only made them fools. And so when they had done what they wanted, the Bible says their eyes were opened. Now guess what they saw? A problem that never existed now existed. The two were in the garden, no problem. The moment their eyes were open, now the question is, eyes open to what and therefore closed to what? Because if they had eyes before, they were seeing something. And when they were like that, there was no problem. The moment their eyes were open, they saw, they said they're naked. They didn't like it. They created a problem that never existed. Meaning that as long as man lives less than God, he will continuously see and create problems for himself that he can't solve, or when he tries to solve one, he creates another. And the whole idea, Moses, tell them so I can return them to the original intention, where now they grow into me. And having grown into me, they express the ability to rule this earth properly. So we won't look at, now, if this rulership comes into place, it means our roads are better. There may be side effects, but that's not the purpose. 1. 2, those side effects are the lowest form. We are meant to create an environment where every single thing thrives according to its original intention. What I mean by that is, Jesus is speaking in Matthew chapter 6, and he begins to talk about those who worry about what to eat and drink and all of that. And then says, I don't understand you guys. He says, look at the trees, look at the birds, look at the lilies. They maintain the original creation intention to an extent. Guess what? He says they don't pray, they don't toil, they don't sow, but I look after them. It is when you began to interfere with your forests that problems came. Before you interfered with the animals, first, they didn't need you. They all were thriving. Now, and he's trying to tell a story. These are lower forms of creation. You are the peak of my creation to be like me. Look at what you've done to yourselves. So Moses was supposed to communicate that to the people. Now, in that communication, the first meeting they were to have with him on Mount Horeb, all he wanted to do was for them to hear him speak, period. It's at that point they said, no, we don't want to hear you speak. Speak to someone else. He'll speak to us. So speak to Moses. If you read your Bible, you see that Moses lived by faith. The people live by laws. And so what God was trying to tell them, even if I'm the one that gives you the laws still won't help you, because you will need atonement. If you fail one, you failed all. So the whole idea of the land of manifestation is to rise to that nature that God has given you. For example, the things that are inimical to the growth of any nation, as has been seen worldwide, they'll tell you it's corruption. Okay? But technically, corruption is not bribery. It's not taking money for contracts or taking money and stealing it. That's not corruption. That's a symptom. Real corruption is inside. When the state of your heart tells you that the way to make ends meet is XYZ, that's the real corruption. Get rid of that. You'll never do anything different from what you think. And that comes from not seeing yourself the way you truly are. So the second challenge on that is this. When you look at yourself and you see yourself limited, and you're not able to produce except according to the systems of the world, then you find a device, a system, in the context of the world to work for you. Meanwhile, the way you are made, the design of God for you is, for example, a fisherman is told, Peter, they need money for temple tax. And he tells Peter, go catch one fish. You're a fisherman, you know how to catch fish. Now, Peter's thinking would be this. We catch the fish, we sell it, we make money. We pay. Because that's the system. He says, no, in this case, what you'll do, just catch the fish, open its mouth, the money you need is there for two people. At this point, you can catch your fish, get the money, eat it at the same time. It's like eating your cake and having it. Now, you say that's not possible, but I tell you in God, it's way possible. Catch the fish, eat it, and the fish will still give you money. For the natural person, all it does is you catch the fish, you sell it, then you get money, but you can't have the two. But he says, no, that's not our way. So this is the challenge. So we're trying to create a pattern and model a system where we can find access to all sorts of graces and abilities to produce in ways different from what the world has done and tied directly to God and relationship with God. Now, not tied to religion, tied to God and relationship. Because let me just insert this here. The difference between religion and God is that religion has a pattern and a system. Relationship with God has a walk. Meaning, you hear, like Abraham, you follow. Stop, you stop. Move, you move. Touch this, it'll change. You touch it, it changes. That's the whole idea. So what we're trying to do in Kenya is not really get better roads and things. That will come as a sub side effect. We're trying to tell the world we can do it differently. And if they don't want to listen, it's still fine because the proof is in how we're living. The proof is our limitations. In as much as we're trying to use technology to hide the fact that our humanity is limited, it still won't work. So let me finally just paint a picture of the story Moses was told in this regard. In Genesis chapter 6, it talks about the wickedness of man. Now, that word wickedness technically means that man was going further and further away from God and his ways, his life, and his truth. That's technically what it means. But in that season, it now makes a comment and it says that when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, giants arose. So man has understood technically just from that interaction between a spiritual reality and a physical reality that man can rise above other men and live stronger or better than other men. That's what that whole concept of giants is, okay? So if you find a giant now, he's taller than you, he's stronger than you, he has greater reach and whatever, okay? But that's only in relation to man. We were meant to model God as men. not be better than men. To tell everybody, what you see of yourself is not all you were made to be. Giants in a way can show you that's not that's way. Giants can show you in a little way. But technically, God is trying to raise people who can now function at his level and then express dominion naturally, how he would. So we want to see a nation that tells the nations of the world, we got it wrong. Don't be ashamed of recognizing who God is. And when you have a walk with him, you'll discover what Abraham discovered. Abraham discovered God, walked with him, and he had no religion. He had no systems or patterns. But when he heard God and he lived out, it revealed patterns. So he had no pattern, he was following no system. He was following God. But if you watch him, you will see a pattern. And the pattern always starts with hear God, receive, believe. It will change your mind, to transform you. You'll live out that transformation. And then he begins to speak to people. So people called him a Hebrew. In Acts 11:26, people called those apostles, the 120 in the upper room, and those who joined them, called them Christians. They never called themselves Christians. People watched them, and the comparison they could make was with God, the one who walked the earth as a man. They said, these people behave, function like that man called Jesus. That's what they were saying. When the men saw Abraham, they said, there's a way this man lives. We can't describe, but we call him the man who lives a lifestyle that seems to come from beyond the horizon. And then if you want an articulation of what is behind the horizon, then you go to his story, say, oh, God met him, said, leave this, disconnect from this way of thinking, this way of functioning, this way of prospering, this way of making ends meet. Let me show you the real deal. And so that's the whole idea.